Hello and welcome back to my RC channel. I'm AndyRC and today I'm checking out the Syma X8HG quadcopter that has kindly been sent in for review by Banggood.com. I have been buying from Banggood for years, so I don't just say this because they sent this quadcopter in for review. Their customer service is second to none when it comes to the buying experience, and I buy from them whenever it is possible because I know that if something is wrong, they will fix it. The Syma X8HG is a 350 sized brushed quadcopter similar to the Kaideng K70 and the V666 quadcopter, except this one has altitude hold. I have been skeptical about toy grade quadcopters with altitude hold ever since the Hubsan H107D Plus dialed down its rates, so let's see how this one turns out. I really like how manufacturers are making the most out of the boxes that the quadcopters come in these days. I couldn't believe how much they packed into this small box compared to just a year ago. It reminds me of surface mount circuit boards using components on both sides of the board to make electronics much more compact. We have the quadcopter itself, which looks like an early DJI product. The 1080p camera, which slots nicely into its mount. This mount does hold a GoPro 4, however it's not efficient because there's no holes for the buttons to line up, so I will look at that later. We have a USB lead which powers the camera from the quadcopter, as well as sending the video record signal and photo signal from the transmitter. The camera comes fitted with a 4GB micro SD card. Inside the quadcopter is a 2000 mAh 2S 25C LiPo battery that uses a banana connector, which is the same as the Kaideng K70 quadcopter. It comes with the charger, which uses the balance plug of the LiPo to charge it. This charges at 0.7 amps, so if you have a hobby grade charger, the battery will charge much quicker. Also in the box we have the prop protectors as well as 4 spare blades. We have a screwdriver and some screws for screwing on the landing legs and prop protectors. We have some spare prop fasteners and pins to keep the propellers on tight. Of course we have the transmitter, which is similar to the Syma X8HG's transmitter, except this one is bigger. Both sticks are spring-loaded due to the locked altitude hold function. The top left-hand shoulder button gives you 2 different rates of low and high. If you hold that button down, that sends the quadcopter into headless mode. The right-hand shoulder button is for 360-degree flips. You have to hold down the button while you input pitch or roll to flip in the desired direction. Holding down on the throttle trim starts video recording. This is indicated by a red flashing light on the camera as well as the 4 LEDs on the quadcopter flashing intermittently. The top button is for taking a photo. The rest of the buttons are for trimming all of the axes. A lot of people will be asking, can you add FPV to this quadcopter? And the answer is yes. You can pretty much add FPV to anything these days. I'm using this camera from microfpv.eu. You can also get it from the Micromotor Warehouse if you live outside of the EU. I am using a random 1S LiPo battery and a rubber band to attach it to the quadcopter. I know it doesn't look very professional, but it works fantastically, and these cameras draw such a low amperage, the battery will last for hours. As mentioned earlier, you can add a GoPro. I have mounted mine upside down using a GoPro case. I got this off eBay. You will need to flip the footage in the editing software. Let's go and take it for a fly. To arm the quadcopter, you simply lift the throttle stick up for a second or so and the props will start. I have to say this quadcopter blew away my expectations. The altitude hold is perfect for this setup. It takes such good shots with its 1080p camera. The camera does have a switch on the side of it, so you can change it into 720p mode. However, I can't see a reason for doing that unless your viewing platform can't handle 1080p. The quality of the camera is very similar to a Mobius. It also has a wide-angle lens of about 100 degrees, which is nice. Be aware that I am making this flight at dusk when the light is slightly lower than normal. I always fly at dusk for the best video footage. It reduces the risk of any jello that higher lighting conditions can cause, as well as calmer weather. Even on a windy day like today, when it gets to dusk, the wind always settles more than it does in the daytime. It's a really smooth flying quadcopter. I'm getting great video footage from it. It requires very little input to keep it level. It would be a very good quadcopter to move onto after you have mastered a micro quadcopter. As mentioned, it is a windy day here today, but with the combination of this flight controller and the altitude hold, you really wouldn't know it. Let's talk about the range. The range is excellent. This quadcopter is more expensive than the Kaiden K70, but that only had a range of about 100 meters or so. This quadcopter showed no signs of any dropouts, and I was able to FPV up to 120 meters, which is the size of this field, and it felt safe with no hesitations at all. As always, these cameras from microfpv.eu are bulletproof. At only 25 milliwatts, it is coping with the distance of this entire field with minimal dropouts. Another impressive statistic about this quadcopter is its flight time. Geared brush quadcopters always do well with their flight times, and this is no exception. On average, I was getting a 10-minute flight time, and that is with the included FPV gear and GoPro that I added. Brush quadcopters usually lack power, but like the Kaideng K70, this one has bucket loads of power. This quadcopter, for its size, has to be the quietest quadcopter I have. Usually, geared brush motors cause a loud whining noise, but that is not present with this one. There is just a faint noise that comes from the propellers, which my neighbours will be very pleased about. The camera mount has a dampening system built into it that suits its native camera, but it is a little weak for the GoPro, which can cause jitters in the footage. Here is some footage of the GoPro 4 attached. The quality is better, however the wider angle gets the props and legs in shot, so really you are best off using the camera that it comes with. Another problem that I have seen with altitude hold quadcopters is that they are impossible to land without tipping over. This is not the case with the Syma X8HG. It lands perfectly and the props stop a second or so after touching the ground. So there you go, that is my review of the Syma X8HG quadcopter. Many thanks for Banggood.com for providing this sample for an honest review. I will put a link in the description if you wish to buy it. You can follow me on Instagram. My username is AndyRC_channel for pictures of items that are going to be coming up on the channel. As always, thanks so much for watching. Please continue to subscribe. Cheers.